This presentation is about ammonia awareness. Our goals for this training are to make sure that you are aware that ammonia is in your workplace, know ammonia's properties, understand the likely causes and results of ammonia exposure, understand the ammonia alarms that have been put in place throughout the facility, and how you can be prepared to react to an ammonia release. First of all, we have to ask ourselves, why do we have anhydrous ammonia in our workplace? And for us, the answer is simple. It's used as a refrigerant to cool spaces, processes, and products. Why do we use anhydrous ammonia? Well, it has zero ozone depletion effect and zero global warming effect. That means it's a green refrigerant. It can also cool better than almost every other refrigerant out there. It's excellent at what it does, and it's very cost effective. Ammonia is used as a refrigerant in our facility because it has some very unique properties. It boils at atmospheric pressure at about -28 Fahrenheit. That's a pretty good temperature for the kind of things that we're trying to do with it. It has a very high affinity for water. 1 gallon of water can absorb over 1 quart of liquid ammonia. If ammonia were to get out of the system, you would notice that it has an extremely pungent odor. Most people can detect it at 5 parts per million or lower. It's irritating to people, as in it starts to annoy you at about 25 ppm. It's extremely corrosive. In low concentrations, it's a colorless gas that you can't even see. In high concentrations, it might be a white cloud. The effect of anhydrous ammonia varies with its concentration level. At 5 parts per million, or 0.0005%, you can normally detect it by smell. As this level rises, different things happen. At 50 parts per million, or 0.05%, OSHA sets its permissible exposure limit. This means that above this level, you would need personal protective equipment. What you're going to find out later is that our alarms go off well before this, and most people would self-evacuate the area in the case of an ammonia concentration higher than, say, 20 ppm. At 300 parts per million, or 0.03%, NIOSH says that this is immediately dangerous to life and health. That's the IDLH. Above this level, people would have to wear an air pack, but you're not going to be asked to do this. As the level gets even higher, it starts to affect the human body. At 700 parts per million, or 0.07%, there's irritation to the eyes and mucous membranes. At 5,000 parts per million, that's 0.5%, it can cause death in only a few minutes. At 10,000 parts per million, or 1%, that death could be almost immediate. At 30,000 parts per million, or 3%, exposed skin would suffer burns or blisters. And even higher than that, it gets to levels where it can actually burn. At 15% is what's called the lower explosive limit, and that's flammable all the way up to 28%. As mentioned earlier, throughout this facility, ammonia detection has been installed. While people will notice the scent of ammonia far before these detectors and alarms go off, these detectors let us know when the level has reached an unsafe amount. They're installed throughout the areas that have ammonia equipment, that is, places where ammonia could be released. These are all set to go off at 25 parts per million, well below a level that could actually injure you. If ammonia were to be released, your body could be affected by it through these 3 routes of entry. That is contact, ingestion, or inhalation. Contact is simply ammonia touching your skin. Ingestion, although extremely unlikely, would be swallowing ammonia or ammonia-tainted water or other fluids, and inhalation is breathing it in. Of all of these, inhalation is the most common concern. But contact, especially in the eyes, is another. In the event of contact, you'll want to flush this ammonia away from you as soon as possible. Water is the answer for that. In the event of ammonia exposure to the skin or eyes, flush eyes and stay in that safety shower for at least 15 minutes. 15 minutes is crucial to minimize the damage that ammonia would cause. For workers performing maintenance on the refrigeration system, special personal protective equipment is required whenever they're going to open the system to the atmosphere. A full-face air purifying respirator with ammonia cartridges is required as part of our line and equipment opening policy. Whenever this APR is worn, a personal ammonia detector will also be worn to let them know what the levels are outside of their mask. The equipment has to be in good working order, and we have to make sure that we follow our safe work practices and procedures, such as our line and equipment opening policy. One common reason that ammonia can be released is actually not through maintenance, but through theft. There are some methods of methamphetamine manufacture that use anhydrous ammonia, and a number of thefts have resulted in accidental releases. These tend to leave valves open, remove lines, and use incompatible containers. A number of these incidents have resulted in severe injury, death, and significant economic loss. If you become aware of an ammonia release, you should notify the maintenance department. Those operators can investigate that incident. They will evaluate it and ensure personnel safety. Often we will shelter in place, but sometimes the leak will necessitate that we leave the building. We refer to this as evacuation. It is important, whether we shelter in place or evacuate, that we maintain personnel accountability. We want to make sure everyone is safe. Our team members, perhaps in conjunction with outside help, will respond to the incident. For most releases, the best way to ensure personnel safety is shelter in place. Shelter in place simply means we're going to stay inside the building, but we're going to move away from the ammonia leak to a place that we know is safe. This place will also give us a route to get out in case the release gets worse. In the event of an evacuation, both the routes and the assembly points are posted throughout the area. We want to move upwind of a release. In either case, accountability is extremely important. We want to make sure that all of our people are accounted for as safe. We'll pause for a moment to allow facility personnel to explain to you sheltering procedures, sheltering locations, evacuation routes, and evacuation assembly points. Please don't hesitate to ask the personnel giving you this training any questions you may have. If questions arise later, feel free to ask your supervisors. Thank you for your interest in process safety.